Good morning, everyone. I'm Advocate Gunjan, and I have an experience of about a decade specifically in the field of commercial litigation, arbitration, and dispute advisory. I have my own law firm, Advitya Legal LLP, which is located in New Delhi. We have a branch office in Bangalore and have tie ups all over India as well as internationally. Today, I have been invited by Golden Antlers to speak on a subject which is very up and coming, online dispute resolution. So, without any further ado, let's begin. Now, what do we understand by online dispute resolution? At a very preliminary level, ODR refers to the usage of information and communication technology tools to enable parties to resolve their disputes. This includes using simple to complicating communication technologies such as audiovisual tools ranging from telephones to smartphones to LED screens, spreadsheets, emails, and other applications, and the crux of ODR is basically to enable dispute resolution without physical communication of the parties. Now, to clarify further, when we are talking about ODR, we are not speaking about those disputes which are before courts and are conducted online, because we've seen that happen in the pandemic. We are actually referring to alternate dispute resolutions, that is ADR, that is out of court dispute resolution, where parties are enabled to resolve disputes without the need of being physically present. Why is there so much growth in ODR? Because the pandemic has now made it mandatory. These adjustments are called for now, which are very adaptive and innovative. And across the globe, both private dispute resolution centers as well as judiciaries have welcomed technology. And they've now come up with a lot of guidelines to facilitate video conferencing led remote participation in hearings. And as you already know, these rules are already in place as far as the international dispute resolution mechanisms are concerned. Now, let's move on to the second sort of subtopic, which is why is ODR growing? What is the need for the growth, and what are the benefits of ODR? So, there are a lot of benefits which are associated with ODR. The first being that it's extremely cost effective. Now, the traditional costs involved of booking venues, traveling, and all have really gone down thanks to ODR. The entire process can happen simply if parties have some basic technology, which is a requisite for resolving the dispute. The second thing is, of course, because of these reasons, it is very convenient and quick. And now, one of the main reasons why it is quick is because a lot of times ODR is a mechanism which is a documents only dispute resolution. So, without the parties hassling themselves with going to courts and spending time and money in being physically present, or even dealing with traditional ADR, which has come to be plagued by similar evils such as courts, ODR offers quite a respite. Thirdly, due to this reason, there is also an increased access to justice. So, due to low cost and due to such a convenience, people who earlier could not afford justice can now also do so. Fourthly, ODR has greatly reduced the burden on traditional courts, and the push to ODR is so that highly lengthy dispute resolution process for which India is infamous should be avoided, and the burden on courts should be lessened. Now let's discuss a little about something which we are very curious about, that what is the current status of ODR in India? Does Indian law actually recognize online dispute resolutions, and are awards and settlement agreements which are achieved through ODR enforceable and recognized in India? Now, as far as ODR efforts are concerned in India, it was earlier close to nil. But now with COVID, talks have started in the Indian scenario. And in fact, in June 2020, a committee was specifically formed for online dispute resolution. And even Niti Aayog has submitted a draft report for ODR. Now, although internationally, a lot of organizations offer fully functional platforms for ODR, such as SIAC and LCIA, India is still lagging quite a bit behind. Having said that, despite ODR not being a very well recognized form of dispute resolution, we do know that through judgments and case laws, courts in India have been paving way for technology to be recognized and used in various forms of judicial processes also. Now, as on today, as we are very well aware, there are various judgments and laws which give legitimacy to online contracts or e-contracts as valid, and electronic evidence and documents are also considered to be valid. Similarly, there are laws and judgments which recognize online service of summons, and there are in fact two Supreme Court judgments which declare that even online arbitration is valid and video conferencing is a valid means of recording evidence of witnesses. Now, most recently, you must have also come across a case where even a service of summons through apps such as WhatsApp, Telegram, and Signal was recognized as valid. So basically, what we can see is that we are proceeding leaps and bounds, and this, in fact, paves the way for courts recognizing ODR as valid, even if the service of summons or the dispute resolution process is taken on through the use of some other technology. Now, let's talk about some categories of online dispute resolution which are already running in India. So, first category is the government run ODR platform, and some examples are the Samadhan portal for MSMEs and the National Internet Exchange of India domain name dispute settlement mechanism, which adopted this policy in September 2020. The second is court annexed ODR platforms. So, as we know that a lot of courts have annexed dispute resolutions centers such as the DISC or the Samadhan Mediation Center of Delhi High Court or the Madras High Court Arbitration Center, and a lot of court annexed arbitration centers are running. So during the pandemic, what we have seen is that they have turned to online dispute resolution, although it is not as smooth as maybe an online portal, but they have provided these options. Similarly, various lok adalats have been running online after COVID. So all these steps are being taken. Then the third kind of mechanism for ODR in India is private ODR platforms, which are basically startups. These are legal tech startups which are like one of them is Sama. Then there is one other one called Pre-Solve 360, and there is also Center for Online Dispute Resolution. In fact, in October 2020, the government of India had even invited applications from such startups to enable them to enlist themselves on the website of Department of Legal Affairs, basically to give them a sort of push, these kind of startups. Now, let's talk about what is the procedure which is followed in online dispute resolution. Now, as I mentioned, the procedure for ODR depends on the purpose for which the ODR is being utilized, whether it is for mediation, conciliation, arbitration, or some such other MEDAB hybrid. And the procedures usually begin with consent. The very basis of the most of the ADR is consent. So unless it is statutorily mandated, such as in the case of MSMEs or the MP Madhyasth Adhiniyam, and there are many other such laws, then consent has to be the first step. The second step is that whenever dispute arises, the mediation or conciliation or arbitration is invoked by the party by writing to the ODR platform, institution or organization in the mode which is prescribed by the rules. The third step is that the organization then gives a notice to both parties, and the process then moves forward depending on which mode of dispute resolution is being used. Then the next step is a neutral is then appointed from the panel of the ODR platform, who would, in this case, be the mediator, the conciliator, or the arbitrator, depending on the procedure. And in this entire process, it's very important that ODR mechanism takes sufficient mechanisms to safeguard the authentication of information, as well as to provide privacy and protection to the information which the parties provide. This is done with the help of electronic signatures, and which safeguard the information of registered e-documents, and also encryption. In this manner, the parties file their claims, replies, rejoinder applications, or whatever other documents they want to file or are required. And like I mentioned, there may or may not be any oral proceedings through video conferencing. This varies from case to case basis. And many times the dispute may be resolved through a designated software without necessary presence of a third party. This is referred to as algorithmic dispute resolution, but this is not there in India as of now. As of now, there are people who are carrying on online dispute resolution. So from this procedure, we see that as far as ODR platforms are concerned, they don't themselves act as judges or neutrals, but rather they act as an administrator as well as an infrastructure provider. So now discuss about what is the latest happening, which is in the field of ODR. Now the latest is that Justice Sikri Committee has been appointed, who is also submitting its recommendation to the PMO. And it's likely that soon there would be a plethora of legislation and regulations on the entire phenomena of ODR. This is because there are various concerns which still exist with ODR, such as if it is not regulated, then how do you ensure protection of privacy and confidentiality of parties? Secondly, if it is not regulated, then how do you ensure that the costs of ODR remain low, lest they will be plagued by the same technicalities which ADR is now suffering? And thirdly, there is also need for regulation because in the case of witness testaments, there's a huge chance of tampering of statements in the current scenario. And cross-examination procedures need to be put in place. For example, what happens if an online dispute resolution process is happening? There's a cross-examination happening. And on the screen of witnesses, they are being tutored, or there is someone who is already present in the same room as a witness. So there are currently no procedures which are prescribed for all this. The second reason why regulations are also required is because just like any other new change which comes into existence, enough incentives need to be provided both to entrepreneurs as also lawyers so that the shift can be enabled smoothly. So both businesses and all stakeholders need to be provided incentives so that online dispute resolution can be a huge success in India. Now, I hope that you found this information video useful, and I'm very grateful to Golden Antlers and to Paula, who is an organization which is um, very committed to knowledge dissemination, and I'm thankful that they've provided me this platform and this opportunity to speak on such an upcoming subject. And I hope you found this helpful. Thank you.